Welcome to the Business Finance Bulletin, episode 162. Into the latest Business Finance Bulletin with me, Rob Warlow from Business Loan Services, the commercial finance experts. In this bulletin, Brexit, what now? Finance support for TV production companies and the latest bank lending figures. Well, as I record this bulletin, the deed has been done. Yes, the letter has been signed, sealed and delivered, formally starting divorce negotiations between the UK and the European Union. Well, of course, the question on many business owners' lips now is, where does that leave us? Well, I think everyone agrees that leaves us with 2 years of a little bit uncertainty, if not certainly over the next 12 months. And hopefully by then we'll start to get some clarity around how the negotiations are going. And obviously people really want to steer on what our relationship, particularly from a trade perspective, is going to be with Europe. What about the EU citizens who are already here, providing much needed support to businesses? Their status is obviously a little bit unclear. So there's a lot of things that have gone into the melting pot. So where does that leave you? Well, certainly the business owners that I speak to, there is still a lot of confidence and optimism about the future. Many of them saying they just want to put their heads down and plough on. And I think that's the key. Optimism. We can just let everything go on around us, but everybody just put your heads down, do the very best you can to continue growing your business profitably. What about bank lending? Is that going to be there? Well, as we'll see a little bit later on in this bulletin, yes, the banks are certainly going to be continuing to supporting you, and we get no feeling that banks are pulling in the reins when it comes to lending. So it's a case of, remember, keep business plans ready and primed to go when deals come and land on your table and you need to access finance quickly. Keep those figures up to date, both annual accounts and also manager information as well, so you can move quickly when opportunities arise. And I tell you what, opportunities will arise. Yes, they're going to be winners and losers, but the vast majority of you are going to be winners and probably see no change. So keep your head up and keep optimism levels very high. We may have a little bit of a bumpy ride occasionally, but I'm sure we'll get a lot more clarity really soon on where we're heading. If you've been a regular watcher and listener of this bulletin, you know that occasionally I have news about finance funds which have been put together to help businesses. Well, in this bulletin, it's actually good to have news about a fund that is helping a particular industry, and that is TV production companies. Yes, Barclays media team have announced that they put together a £100 million finance fund to help TV production companies. Now, that's one sector that has been changing a lot over the last few years. The traditional model was TV production companies would put a program together and then sell it to a broadcaster, funds handed over, job done. But with the advent of streaming video on demand, such as Netflix, the revenue streams will get dragged out over a longer period. And of course, that hurts cash flow for those TV production companies. It hinders development of new products. So what Barclays media team have done, they're now saying that they will now advance against future revenues, meaning that the TV production companies will have funds today instead of having to wait for a drip of cash flow over a certain period of time. That allows them to get on and develop those new programs. So it's a really good example there of a high street bank targeting a particular sector and identifying the particular needs that they have and coming up with a unique fund. So well done to Barclays. And if you are a TV production company, just hunt out your local Barclays representative and they will be able to guide you through the process of how you can access that fund. Let's move on now to our monthly look at what UK banks are doing to support small businesses in terms of money lent. Now, every month the Bank of England produces a series of statistics looking at the amount of money that small businesses are currently borrowing from high street banks. And the figures at the end of February 2017 have just been released. Now, in previous bulletins, I've mentioned that there's been increases and decreases and increases and decreases in the amount of money being lent. But a trend is starting to emerge. Now, interestingly, at the end of February compared to the end of January 2017, there's been a net increase in the amount of money currently borrowed by UK small businesses, an increase of about £600 million. Now, on a 12-month basis, that equates to an increase of 1.2% over 12 months. Not bad, it's an increase anyway. But it's a clear trend is coming, because over the last couple of months, going back First, the increase was 1.7%, then it's 1.6%, then it's 1.3%, now it's 1.2%. So the rate of growth is beginning to slow down. Now, is that down to really the banks being a lot tighter in terms of lending money out? Or is it a case that businesses are not borrowing as much? Well, to be honest with you, I think it's a combination of both, but a little bit more, I suspect, on business owners being a little bit more cautious, and of course bypassing banks and going to the alternative lenders. And so that amount of money being lent in those sectors are not reflective in these figures. So interesting trends there, shows that perhaps demand for finance is ebbing away a little bit. But as I mentioned in the first section about Brexit, we may be going into a period of uncertainty. So I think these figures are going to be very much waving up and down over the next couple of months until we settle back into a period of growth. Well, that's it for another bulletin, and as ever, if you did enjoy it, please give it a like and a share. If you're watching the video version, don't forget we've got the podcast version that you can download to listen to at your leisure, available on iTunes, Stitcher and SoundCloud. And if you're on the podcast version, pop along to my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search for Rob Warlow, and there you will find this bulletin, all the other bulletins and many other videos with tips and ideas and strategies on raising finance and dealing with banks. Well, that's it for this bulletin. Thanks very much. I look forward to being with you again next time. Bye bye now.